When I first saw her, I think she came across a certain type of way. She was an attractive woman. I'm not going to take that away from her. She's attractive. She's very smart, very articulate. But the more I see her, the less of a doctor I see, and the more I see a woman who is trying to relive her hot girl years right in front of us with a little bit more sophistication and class, right? More thirst traps, right? More revealing of some truth that Delvin just told us, right? For the woman who's out here giving this kind of conversation about being healthy, she has a situationship with the nigga who wants to be with her. She's only really keeping the nigga around, right? In case she can't probably find the other nigga that she really wants because her clock is ticking, right? As part of that conversation, she said, hey, I'm 42. Right? And I'm ready to have this baby. She was low-key doing a commercial, right? I feel like there was a certain point that when I saw her, every time I saw her publicly, I felt like she was advertising, I want a man, right? It was giving a little thirsty a little bit, right? To a certain extent. And a woman that smart, that capable, and that attractive should not be behaving this way unless she too understands that the heat is rising, that she may be leaning towards the cooked side of the rotisserie. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to be honest. The same way that Black people tell on themselves with the whole carnival thing, I think a lot of these women tell on themselves. And then what they do is they craft a boogeyman narrative to explain why they never got or couldn't get what they say they want. And Delvin, I'm telling you, they say they want these things. They want a man. They want a husband, right? To S&M's point, they want a baby. And I get it, S&M, like holding off and all that. But I'm sorry, it's irresponsible if you want a child, if you ever want a child as a woman in your life, to sit there and wait till 35 to start thinking about settling down, finding a husband and having a child. That's ridiculous. I'm not saying you gotta want that. I'm saying if you ever in your life, like, considering it, then when you plan accordingly, what the fuck? That don't make no sense. And so now at 42, you're willing to bend. Because that's the other thing she said in the conversation. She's like, I would have that relationship with that man and I would do everything to stay with him. Things that I wouldn't necessarily do in my 30s and 20s. But now, after we have this child, we're going to make a pact. It doesn't matter. She basically was telling niggas, hey, man, you give me a baby, it's up. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, right? That's the sound of a woman who's walking towards the oven, even if she's not fully cooked yet. Right? So, yes. And furthermore, we got to be honest. If these women said they did not want those things, all of us could understand. But you'd have to admit there's some level of curiosity as to why a woman who presents to seem to be everything a man could want. I think we'd be lying if there wasn't a certain level of curiosity, right? Sarah Fontenot, hopefully I pronounced her name right, beautiful influencer. She's smart, seems to have a lot going for herself, right? But she's 37. So just going back to this whole are you cooked thing, do I think women in general are cooked? No. Because I think a lot of women are open to more things than they say they willing are open to, right? I wouldn't do it. Yeah, you lying, right? So a lot of everyday women who don't see themselves as being like these top notch, whatever, they're open to it. So I don't think those women are cooked simply because they're willing to let more people enter their restaurant, if you understand. Maybe that analogy made sense. But these women who seem to only cater to a certain audience, right? I'm talking about those women. That's why I started off by saying I want to focus on them because I think there are guys of their ilk who are passing them over for a reason. It doesn't make any sense to any logical thinking person, at least unless there was something else wrong. And it wasn't until I saw Shorty on the Ace podcast, because he's still doing this thing. Was it Ace Metaphor? Is that his name? That's right. Yeah, he's still doing this thing. And Shorty was on there. She was presented with this thing, this typical scenario. A man has everything you need, right? But he's lacking in the money part, but he still makes enough money to live a comfortable life. And she's like, no, I couldn't do it. And she was like going through the machinations. And right there, it hit me. She has even a more specific target of the type of nigga that she wants. So when you talk about subjectivity, the question for her would become, do the niggas that she specifically want think she's viable? And so far, the answer is no. And so far, that would mean to them, maybe she's cooked. Now, if she's willing to open up her preferences, then maybe she's not. But we got to be honest. You know what I'm saying? I think that's how women over 35 get cooked. They still operate in a space like they still move like they're 25. Sorry, sis, you're not. Like Delvin said. You dig what I'm saying? I think for those women, they are cooked. Flambéed. That's why, what's the version of cooking that takes a long time? You know what I'm saying? Like overtime. It's like a flash fry. It's like, because what happens is y'all be the last ones to know, right? You've been in the oven all this time and now you're dry. You know what I'm saying? There's no more moisture in there, right? And you're wondering what happened. Y'all be the last to know. That's the type of cooks y'all are. Go ahead.
So let me go ahead and interrupt. I'm sorry, Devin. Can I just jump in for one small portion? first, I just want to remind folks, don't get punked into having kids before you're 35 if you're not ready. There are things called surrogacy if you have the money. There's also frozen eggs if you have the money. And even if you don't have the money, as long as you kicking it and you want to have a baby, you'll most likely have that baby. Don't get punked into having that baby before
And
you're
risk your
ready.
health. Go ahead.
So, so with that being said, go ahead. I just want to interject that, and then I'm going to say something else. Go ahead, Devin.
Well, here's where you went wrong, and this is to Nick's point, which is the same point I'm making. For the men for the Cheyenne Bryant of the world, I mean, we could say Paul Pierce is one of her peers. She's in his social circle, sphere of influence. For the Paul Pierces of the world, he's wealthy, competent, accomplished in his field. I can just go get the 27-year-old version of Cheyenne Bryant and just cut the whole we just skip past all of this. Why shouldn't he do that?
Okay, so
that's the question.
I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple things, and even something you didn't even ask.
Why shouldn't he get two of them?
So he can do that. He can go get the 25-year version of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant because he can afford to get that 25-year-old version of the Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And so this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, and I'm going to, even though I know we're targeting this one specific, I'm going to go ahead and broaden out one more time and just say this. So when people talk about cooked, I want to say that she's not cooked. She's just seasoned. And that seasoned is the part that some men are afraid of. They're afraid that she now has depth, clarity, and standards. And that bothers them. They're not ready for that. It scares some folks, not all, but it does scare some men. And that's why they're cool with situationships, which is ironic that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is in a situationship.
I'm not surprised at all.
And so, but with that being said, a lot of times a woman over 35 is also confident and she's not begging to be accepted, but maybe some are now that I think about it, because there's a lot of pick-me's, supposedly, I'm going to put quotation marks on that, out there. But oftentimes they just choose themselves, right? And I think that also upsets some men because she's not pressed. Dr. Bryant don't sound like she's pressed even though she did talk about having a baby.
You didn't watch the episode. You did not watch the episode.
No.
When it came to the baby
doesn't
part.
sound like she's pressed if she already in a situationship for what you say, 9 years?
No, 5 years.
The guy is pressed if she wants a baby this year, S&M.
Well, okay, no, she's pressed for the baby,
and
but she's not pressed for.
That's cap.
I'm just saying.
You think she's gonna? You think she's gonna be a baby mama?
Situationship shit.
You think right now with her perception and all that, you think she's gonna be a baby mama? So if she's talking about
the marriage,
so if she's talking about having a baby right now, and she want to be married before then how is she not pressed for a relationship then?
What I'm saying is, you asked why she doesn't have it before, why now? Like women over 35, I'm answering the broader question is because they weren't pressed. That's why people like Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was in a situationship for 5 years until she became pressed, right? Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't aware that she was in a situationship for 5 years. And I'm laughing because it does seem odd that she's given advice and she herself have not followed her own advice to a certain extent. And so that's kind of ironic to me. However, at the end of the day, I think a lot of times men, when they say women are cooked, it's simply because they don't like the fact that they don't tolerate as much bullshit as they used to tolerate. And these are the same men who help contribute to that bullshit track record that some other women may have experienced. And so I just find it ironic that we're always talking about women being cooked when in reality, they're not cooked. They're just seasoned.
I mean, go ahead, Delvin.
Here's why we can't say she's cooked because of stuff guys doing. By her own admission, she ended 2 engagements and engaged in a 5-year situationship.
Oh, I can't take her seriously.
That's her fault. Go ahead, Nick. I just had to get that out. That was on my
No, I'm agreeing with you with her because I didn't know she was in a situationship. First of all, that automatically was like, oh.
I think the inclination for women hearing this whole conversation about being cooked over 35, right? I think 35, interestingly, is enough. At that point, you do become higher risk when it comes to pregnancy. That's something that you just can't really avoid. And I'm always going to lean on, if a young woman is watching this show, she has to ask herself what she wants for her future in her life. Asking young people to be a little bit more intentional about what they want for their future is not a bad thing. So if you're a young lady out there, yes, you want to prioritize your career. It doesn't mean you have to do so at the exclusion of finding a partner, right? You don't have to go ahead and get married and have a baby the next year. You can wait and do that. You can build a partnership. I think a lot of younger people are doing that. So I don't understand why we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. That's an indictment, I think, if women have to say, oh, I got to do this first, I got to do that first. No, you don't necessarily have to do it at the exclusion of the other.